All right, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday. And S&P finished up 17 basis points. Not much of movement from the beginning of the day. Just a quick recap. Everybody was tweeting about futures down last night, and we ended up about 25 basis points. You can see we're actually still moving here a little bit after hours. But again, slow move for the overall indices. Qs actually underperformed. There wasn't really much going on. We actually got up to the bottom of value, and that's as far as we went here in the Qs. And if you kind of look at the FANG stocks, which I'm not going to go through because I thought they were really boring today, and they kind of have been for a little while, but I think those were the laggards on the day. So Qs finished down just about 8 basis points. Again, very, very tight range in the Qs. IWM was the outperformer, so the small caps I continue to think a really good sign, up 73 basis points comparatively. So that's outperforming the S&P by about 50 basis points, and the Qs even more so. So I think we are now back in value pretty nicely for November. This is something that I was talking about pre-market. We'll see if we can get above here, but I think that's just a really good sign for the market to see this small caps. Remember what we did here the last time that we kind of broke down? They were looking ugly, and then they just kind of did an about face, turn the other way, and just kept going. So let's see if that is the case. I think for a long time we were just, it's kind of just funny how this works sometimes. From 150 all the way down to 145, very, very small price action, for about a month and a half, maybe even a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, momentum takes over. You do have an MACD crossover that's forming as well on IWM. I guess the other one, if you went from MACD to MACD crossover, bear crossover to bull crossover possibly happening. I would maybe wait one more day, but you could see very quick price action from about 145 to 149, all in about 4 days versus a month and a half of moving down. Sometimes it's just how it happens. So this week it is Thanksgiving week. Overall volume will be a little bit lower, but in single name stocks, you could really catch some momentum when people are buying calls because there's just not a lot of other volume to kind of, uh, you know, to have that centered around that's going to absorb it. So, the call buying, it's usually there's some good trades the week of Thanksgiving. Just same thing with around Christmas, but it always seems to be around Thanksgiving, especially the day after Thanksgiving. But we'll get to that in a minute. Just to kind of go over some of the trades that we saw today, we saw a little bit of what caught my eye in the morning was UPS calls, although UPS didn't really do much. Maybe a name to keep an eye on. GM calls. GM continues. We talked about this in a video about a week ago, where GM made this nice move up and then just a move into support, which is the purple line 50-day moving average. And since then, it's been acting pretty nicely, and we've seen call buyers all through this action in here. A couple other names. Wells Fargo has seen repeat activity. Notice it's just kind of hanging out at that 50-day moving average. This is non-dividend adjusted, so I think when you factor in dividends, it's above the 200-day moving average. But it actually is down 18 basis points. But you can kind of see, I'll point out some of the flow if I can. And you could see there was just repeat call buying. They like, for some reason, December 29th. I have to look on the calendar to see if they have an investor day, but they're buying all kinds of strikes on the December 29th calls. And again, this has been going up now. I think it's either Thursday or Friday. Sorry, my memory is fading today. But it was either Thursday or Friday we saw a Wells Fargo call buyer. Then a week before that, we saw a big September call buyer in Wells Fargo. So a name to keep an eye on. A couple other names. Twitter continues to see call buying, and it's been a little bit, just like little bites here and there. So Twitter continues to move higher. Remember, this move on earnings kind of settled back in, as a lot of names did, into some support, and has been pushing higher since. Couple other names where we saw, it's tough to not mention Micron, but it seems like it's almost every day where they just kind of go after Micron call buying just about every day. I mean, it just gets silly. And this is an example. If you look over here on the left, you'll see they just keep coming. They just keep tagging and sweeping Micron calls. These are December 1st calls. These are December 52nd calls. These are also a nice bigger block went up for $5, December 43, and you could see that the price, what the price has been doing, it's up another 3.2% again today. So really nice maneuver. We could talk about Micron every day, but it's literally that's how often. There's another block here for 500 that went up earlier. In the afternoon, we saw some other interesting trades that went up. Light was one that we saw in the morning. Sorry, I'm forgetting the obvious again. But BABA, we saw some nice call volume. I've been long BABA since the touch of the 50-day moving average. I'm synthetically long. What I did was I sold put spreads, so I took more of that trade off today. A really nice trade. I took my Cavium trade off. CAVM. That's a name I was just kind of waiting. It got all the way through. I had the 70-75 call spread for December. So, I had to kind of sit with this, even though it was a huge, I did take targets here on this gap up, but I wasn't getting full value yet because the options expire was close to my upper strike 75, and I had to wait basically to December expiration. So when the deal terms got released, I think the price is supposed to be right around where it closed. 84.41 is I believe is the deal price for CAVM, which is the high of where it got to. Actually, it closed at 84. So another just huge winner that we took down today in the trading room. So that was nice. Just in the afternoon, we saw a couple other hints about, Palo Alto had earnings after the close, PANW, and nice numbers, and they're up. They're trading up to 152. We did see some Fortinet calls versus puts. A similar name. Sometimes we see that on a day where a name is going to report earnings. Obviously the implied volatility gets to be so high in some of these names. I think it was 10% in Palo Alto. Urban was another one that the implied volatility was around 11%. So it does obviously need a big move considering how expensive what the options market maker is implying in the price of the options. So they were not cheap. 10%. What I did was for Palo Alto, what I did in the trading room was I sold the put spread. I took advantage of the expensive options and I sold the put spread. So that should work out fairly nicely. I think Urban was up. They had good numbers as well. They did come in a little bit, but sure, 29.45 still, I think, looking pretty good. So that was one trade that we saw. We did see repeat just a small amount of contracts, but again, still chunky in terms of option premium was CORVO. They came in and swept 400 contracts, February 85 contracts that went up. We also saw some calls on VMware and STX. They came in a couple times. This is kind of an interesting name. This is the only trade that I took today. New trade. It's a small trade. Just keep in mind, sometimes, again, you look at the number of contracts and you're like, ooh, 2 or 3 contracts. Well, what was the price? It was only 43 cents, 30 cents on these. So, again, not really, a huge amount behind that trade. It did go up aggressively, and that's a couple times now we've seen STX. So probably if you were just looking at the option activity, the CORVO was a much bigger trade. However, for me, CORVO is a name that I've had some luck trading on option activity. Other times it hasn't worked that well for me, but chart looks okay in CORVO. It's not overbought or anything like that. It will be tied a little bit to what Apple does. It's one of the chip suppliers for the iPhone, I believe. So you have to pay attention a little bit to Apple as well if you took that trade today. There's a couple puts. There's some more energy puts. There's some GameStop puts, Williams Sonoma puts, and a little bit of Fold puts. Not a huge trade for Fold. I'm hoping that's a little bit of protection because I am long that name. What else did I do today in terms of taking profits? I think I've rebalanced a couple trades. Western Digital, I rolled that one out just like I talked about in the weekend video. There's my CAVM out at 480, paid $1.45. CME, oh yeah, see, I knew there was other trades. Box was another winner. Took some profits in that one in Box. Up to 65 cents. I paid 45 for that trade. Baba, there's the target for Alibaba. Huntsman, I hit a target in that today. And then a couple other names, which I think are, a little bit tied to what Bitcoin is doing. CME, this is a trade where we really didn't see option activity. This was a trade that I just thought would make sense going long CME with the fact that they're going to be listing Bitcoin futures. So I think they might get a run into that. Certainly they're seeing it now. So this has been a real nice trade that we put on right on 1031, I think was right in here, was it? Back on here, 1031. So, that was when CME was around 136, now up to 141. So up $5 since I put that on. And then another name that we've been talking about, with blockchain is Riot. We hit a home run in this one today. I actually put this trade on. It's either Thursday or Friday at under $8, and the thing's up to 1035 already. So this is the pharma name or biotech name that kind of changed their name, decided to work on blockchain. But it's hot. Look at the volume on the breakout today. So I think this one has more upside ahead. Look at the MACD crossover as well. If you're not familiar with this name, again, a name that's involved in blockchain, not so much Bitcoin, but blockchain, and everything that's involved in that. So some real nice move out of some of those names today. So that's it. I'll leave it there. Gold really got hit. I think that was kind of funny to see gold really rally on Friday without any news. And sometimes, you try not to get too spooked out about that, but it seems like, every time gold wants to get going, it just does this. It did this back here as well. People got excited about it. Wow, gold might actually start to do something, and it falters. So it's the same thing with bonds. These things are trendless right now, and I think really to get involved in these things, you have to wait. You have to wait until these things stop moving sideways, and you have to wait a little bit longer than usual because of the false signals. I mean, they just keep showing false signals. So you don't, in that sense, when something continues to show false signals and move sideways, you'd rather be late and maybe a decent bit late than keep getting caught in these types of trades. But yeah, what a move down. The semis were also hot. I think they got a lot of attention today. SMH was up 1.2%. Again, that deal being announced, formally announced, helping, but up another 1.2. The robotic stocks every day. It seems like they're on the high list. There was a quick dip last week, and the robotics ETF. As well as bots, I think, should probably be up here as well. Bots probably be at a 52-week high tomorrow, but Robo again. And then the banks, again, they're the biggest weight in the IWM, but also back into value, the KRE, which we saw call buying Friday morning. What a nice trade that was. Somebody bought calls, a big block of KRE calls right here, literally right here. So real nice trade. All right, that's it for today's recap. Have a great night, and I'll see you back tomorrow morning.